Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Yasmina Greco. I'm with O'Reilly Media, and I will be your host for today's webcast. Today we have Microsoft MVP Mike Halsey presenting Getting Started with Windows 8. Mike is the author of the brand new O'Reilly book, Windows 8 Out of the Box. He is also the author of the best-selling Microsoft Press book, Troubleshooting Windows 7 Inside and Out. And folks, you should know Mike's book, Windows 8 Out of the Box, is already selling out like crazy. So we do have some special deals for you all today, so stand by for those. We're excited to have Mike with us to present this webcast for you all. I'll turn the program over to Mike in just a moment, but first I'd like to let you know a couple things to get you started so you get the most out of today's event. You'll want to open the group chat widget if you haven't already done so. This is where we can interact with each other during the event and where you can submit your questions for Mike. We find that our audience usually has a lot of good knowledge to share, so we encourage you all to chat freely during the event. However, if you have questions for Mike, please preface them with a capital letter Q so we know that it's for him and we can make sure he sees it for Q&A. You can also open, move, and resize any of the other widgets. If you'd like to tweet from the Twitter widget today, you'll need to give it permission to access your account, and it will automatically append the event's hashtag Windows 8 to your tweets so you don't have to. If you have any problems during the event, please take a look at the help widget. If you continue to have problems, please post it in the chat room and one of our staff will help you right away. For choppy audio or stalled visuals, please try refreshing your window. And remember, the best thing you can do for a good audio stream is close any apps that could interfere. People always ask, so we'd like you to know we are recording today's webcast and we'll have the archive ready usually within 48 hours. And folks, at this time it is my pleasure to turn the program over to Mike for his presentation. Hello, Mike.
Thanks, Yasmina. Hello, everybody. I'm told we have people from all over the world again, which is fantastic. So some of you will already be using Windows 8. Some of you may have Windows 8 on order. Some of you may be still considering whether or not you want to use Windows 8. So what I want to do is I want to give you an overview with all the information that you need to get started with this operating system, which has now been on sale for, a week? Something like that. So, first of all, who am I? Well, I'm the author, as Yasmina said, of Windows 8 Out of the Box, which I think there's still some left on Barnes & Noble, but they're sold out everywhere else. It's been rushed into a second printing. I don't think they were expecting to do it this early. And there's plenty of copies of all the other books. But my ones had better reviews, and I suppose I should be very happy about that. So I am. Also, Troubleshoot and Optimize Windows 8 Inside Out from Microsoft Press as well. Windows 8 Out of the Box is only about 120 pages and gives you all the information that you need to get started, including everything from staying safe online to keeping your kids safe online to maintaining and troubleshooting your computer. So that's me. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, Most Valuable Professional Awardee for Windows Expert. So let's dive straight in with one of the new ways to get your copy of Windows 8. You can buy Windows as a digital download now for the very first time from MicrosoftStore.com. Now, I want to make a point with this that may help you. One of the big criticisms, in fact probably the biggest criticism people have when they buy a new computer that's got Windows on it, is that they don't get the actual physical media that comes with the operating system. You don't get an installation DVD. So if something goes wrong and you need to reinstall it at a later date, you don't have that DVD, you can't do it. Now, when you buy a copy of Windows 8 online, you can buy a DVD as well. It costs about an extra $15, but you can do it. But you don't need to. You will eventually get through this purchase process to a screen that will ask you if you want to just install the operating system, create an installable USB flash drive, or save an ISO disk image so that you can burn your own DVD. Now, the USB flash drive option it's a good one because it's a great way to install Windows, especially if you're installing it on a tablet. Brilliant way to install Windows. But once it's on that USB flash drive, you're going to have to keep that USB flash drive as your Windows 8 installer. So unless you have a USB flash drive of 3.5, 4 gig or more spare, you might not want to do that. If you choose the ISO option, it will save Windows 8 as a disk image file. Now you can then burn that file to either a DVD or create a USB flash drive from it by using a tool called the Windows 7 USB DVD download tool. It's a bit of a mouthful. You search for it online. It's on the Microsoft website, the Windows 7 USB DVD download tool. And you can use that to burn an ISO image to a DVD or to create a USB flash drive. And it's by far the best way to do it because that way you get your backup media that you need. So I can't recommend it highly enough. So let's now have a look at Windows 8 itself. Now, we have a new look for Windows, the new start screen with its live tiles, or its ordinary tiles and live tiles that can display real-time information such as the weather, such as new emails you've received, such as what people did for Halloween, all sorts of information. And you can have icons there, tiles representing icons for your desktop software or anything else. So your live screen there's no start menu. The start menu is gone in Windows 8. So this is how you launch all of your programs. But you might wonder how you get to all the extra features in Windows. It's one thing to have your programs and your apps here, but how do you get to everything else? Well, there are several ways of doing this, one of which is the charms. Now, the charms open up on the right-hand side of the screen, and there's 5 of them. They're always the same. They're always in the same place if you have poor eyesight, for example. And let's have a quick look at these. The first is the search charm. Then you've got the share charm, the start charm, the devices charm, and the settings charm. And some of these I'm going to look at in detail a little later on. And as I say, the charms open up from the right-hand side of the screen. And we'll look at, very shortly, various ways of opening the charms and the other various menu options in Windows 8. But these are the main controls for Windows. So you have your start charm in the middle here, which will take you back to the start screen and at any time. And it works in the same way as the Windows key on your computer's keyboard, if indeed you're still using a computer that has one. Then we have what's called the app bar. Now, the app bar is effectively the replacement for your drop-down menu in your program. So it contains functions that you can perform within an app and within a program, and it pops up from the bottom of the screen. And sometimes, in some apps, if there's more complicated controls, you'll get some extra options pop down from the top of the screen as well. So the app bar is where you'll find controls of things that you can do both within your apps but also from the start screen itself. Again, I'll cover this in more detail shortly. Then we have the running apps bar, and these show the apps that are currently running on your computer, and this slides in from the left of the screen, and that's where it will appear there. So Let's now have a look at how we use it. We've seen what the main interface elements are in Windows 8, so let's have a look at how we now begin to use it. I want to begin with logging off from your session and switching between users. You do this by clicking or tapping your name in the top right corner of the screen, and a little drop-down menu will appear there. And if you have any additional user accounts set up on the computer, then you can just touch or click one of those user accounts to switch between them. You can also sign out here, but you'll notice that there's no shutdown and restart options here. They've been moved, and there you now find those in the charms. So how do we actually control it? Well, let's start with touch. If you're using Windows 8 with touch, there are various movements that you can perform. You'll see with the charms on the right-hand side, you slide your finger in from the far right of the screen to display from the charms. With the app bar along the bottom of the screen, the little menu, you slide your finger up from the very bottom of the screen to display the app bar. And for the running apps, you can either switch between running apps by swiping your finger in from the left of the screen, or you can display the app bar, the running apps bar, by swiping your finger in a little bit from the left of the screen and then taking it back out again in a sort of in-out movement. So that's a way to display those main controls. Within the apps themselves, you have pinch, zoom in and out that you can do with 2 or more fingers. And by default, new Windows 8 computers will support a minimum of 4 touch points. So what about using Windows 8 with a mouse? Well, if you're using Windows 8 with a mouse, you have what Microsoft are calling hot corners. If you move your mouse to the top or bottom corners on the right side of the screen, the charms will appear. If you move your mouse to the top corner on the left of the screen, the running apps bar will appear. If you move your mouse to the bottom left corner of the screen, then an icon will appear to enable you to go back to the start screen if you're not already on it. And if you right-click with your mouse in any sort of unused space, i.e. not on a tile, not on an image or something, in any unused space, then the app bar will appear. You can also, where you've got pinch, zoom, in and out controls with your fingers, you can also simulate this with a mouse by holding down the control key on your keyboard and using the scroll wheel in the middle of the mouse. So if you're using a mouse with Windows 8, the way to get to the controls is with the hot corners and with the good old-fashioned right-click. So what about a keyboard? Keyboard users haven't been forgotten. You can open the charms any time by holding down the Windows key and pressing C. You can open the app bar at any time by holding down the Windows key and pressing Z. And you can switch between your running apps by holding down the Windows key and pressing Tab, Windows plus Tab. And it doesn't do it in the 3D way, not this time. So that's how you control it. So let's begin to look at some of the features in Windows 8 itself. Now, I mentioned the app bar contains all sorts of additional controls. So from the start screen, for example, you can resize apps, you can make them bigger or smaller, and perform additional actions on them, such as uninstalling an app. But in the far right of the app bar, when you open it from the start screen, you'll see an All Apps button. Now, if you press this, you're taken to a different view where you can see every single app and every single piece of desktop software that is installed on your computer, including the standard Windows features such as Paint, yes, it's still there, and Notepad, yes, that's still there, and you can see these as a list, and they're all very neatly grouped. They're grouped as you would expect to find them grouped in the Start menu in Windows 7. They're all grouped by the overall name of the package, say Microsoft Office or Adobe Creative Suite. So the All Apps view allows you to see everything that's installed. And if you zoom out of the All Apps view with your pinch zoom or your control key on your keyboard and on your mouse scroll wheel, then you can also zoom out further and you can see a list of alphabetical titles, and you can switch immediately to apps or programs depending on by selecting the first letter of the app or program's name. So it's very, very useful in that respect. But what about other ways of finding things within your apps and within Windows? Well, let's now start by having a look at the charms. The search charm is much more useful than it first appears. Now, when you open the charms and you press search, you are presented with 3 different types of search that you can do. By default, anything you search for will search for your files, but you can also will search for your apps. But you can also search for Windows settings, or you can search for files. Below these are a list of all the apps that you've got installed on your computer that support the search feature in Windows 8. If you click on one of those apps, you can then search directly within that app. More's the point, when you have an app open in Windows 8 that supports the search feature, then it will automatically search within that app by default. So search is actually very powerful. Let's say, for instance, you have Internet Explorer open from Windows 8 and you open the search charm, then any search you do will search the Internet. If you have the music app open and open the search charm, then anything you search for will search your music collection, and so on. So it's very good in that respect. Next up is the share charm. Now the share charm, if you have an item selected, such as, let's say, a piece of text or a picture, as in this case, of little baby Gilbert, who features extensively in Windows 8 out of the box, much to the pleasure of his parents, then you will be presented with a list of the apps that you have installed that support sharing, and it makes it easy to be able to share what you want to share with other people and with other apps. So, for instance, you haven't got to go into a Facebook or a Twitter app or a Flickr app and go and select the photo in the way you normally would do by going through multiple folders and finding it and trying to remember where you put it. Once it's highlighted, you open the charms, click share, and if you have an app, all the apps that you can share with will automatically be presented there, and just touching the name of one of those apps will then share automatically that item, all those items, with that other app and take you straight to that app. It's actually a very quick, easy and convenient way of being able to share. The next charm is the Start charm, as I've said, and that takes you back to the Windows Start screen. And the charm after that is the Devices charm, and the Devices charm is where you can access additional hardware such as secondary monitors on your computer. But the Settings charm is the next one I want to have a look at. Now this is important in 3 respects. Firstly, this is where you go to turn off and restart the computer. Microsoft have decided that you should no longer press Start to turn off the computer. You should now press Settings to turn off the computer. I just love this. This one's never going to get old. And this is also where you connect to Wi-Fi and mobile broadband networks, which I'll talk about in a minute. But at the top of the Settings panel, which slides in from the right-hand right of the screen, where you can see I've got that inward pointing arrow, there are additional settings options that will be context sensitive for what you're doing at the time. So let's say, for example, that you're in an app, whatever it is, be it a news app or an email app or a photo sharing app, and you open the settings charm, then there will be additional settings options specific for that app that appear in the top of that panel. So if you ever need to change the settings for an app and get more control over an app, then that is how you will do it. The app bar won't always support all of the necessary controls, so you open the settings charm from within an app, and that's where those settings will be. So let's have a look at how we actually connect to a network and get online. Now, I've said that you do this from within settings by clicking or touching the settings charm. And here you'll see a list of all available Wi-Fi networks, and if your computer supports it, any 3G or 4G mobile broadband networks as well. And there's full support for 4G in Windows 8. Now, there are some very cool new features when it comes to especially mobile broadband with Windows 8, because if you're on a mobile broadband connection, you're going to have a maximum data allowance, and you could use it up. You want to know how much you're using. So what you can actually do is you can right-click on any of the mobile broadband connections and see how much data you've used since over a period. Now you can reset this. There's a reset option there. So you can, for instance, reset it once a month on the first of the month and see how much data you use. When you're actually going to connect to a mobile broadband data connection for the second onwards time, it will tell you automatically how much data you've used so that you can keep track. Also, if you need to turn off all the radio communications on your laptop, your Ultrabook or your tablet, there's a simple and easy flight mode switch at the top of this panel that will enable you to switch off all radio communications in the computer. Lastly, sometimes people have problems with the settings for Wi-Fi networks and other networks when they become scrambled, and then you go to connect to a network again and it won't do it, or it doesn't connect properly, or you want to be able to fix it, rectify the problem. Well, it's really simple and easy to do in Windows 8, much simpler than it has been in the past. All you need to do is right-click on the name of the network that you want to Windows 8 to forget and select Forget This Network. Then all the settings for that network will be removed, and the next time you go to connect to that network, it'll be like you're doing it for the first time, and everything will be fresh and it will get things working again. So let's now have a look at some of the other settings. Now, the main PC settings panel is available from the settings charm, and it's at the very bottom right corner of the screen where it will say Change PC Settings. Now, this isn't a full control panel. The full control panel is available. Just search for Control Panel at the start screen. And you can search at any point in Windows 8. I forgot to mention this. Search at any point from the start screen simply by typing. You haven't got to open the start screen. You can just type. But the PC settings panel contains all of the primary controls that people actually need and people actually use in order to be able to use their computer. All the really fancy, complicated, administrative stuff is all hidden away. You don't need to see it. PC settings keeps things nice and simple. And it includes some great, really fantastic new features, one of which is the ability to use picture passwords. Now, Windows 8 practically begs you to log in with your Microsoft account or Live ID, which is the email address you use for MSDN, Hotmail, Live, that sort of thing. Practically begs you to log in with one of those. And it's great if you do, because it sets your email up for you, it sets your calendar up for you, it sets the Windows Store up for you, except for your credit card, obviously, you need to put that in. And it's really good. But you want to have a secure password, and I'm always reminding people of the need to have secure passwords. But you don't want to type a really long password in every time you log into your computer. It's a pain. So there are two options, one of which is you can put in a PIN number, and I use a PIN number on my own main Windows 8 computer at home. But you can also have a picture password, and this is much more secure. This is a really good option for laptops. You can pick any picture. Again, we've got the lovely Gilbert here. And you can perform 3 actions on it. You can draw lines, you can draw curves, you can draw little circles, you can put little pokey marks on. So you could do his left eye, do his right eye, and do a big smile, or you could do a circle round his nose and a circle round both cheeks. There's all sorts of things you can do. It's seemingly completely random. It's very secure, and it's a great security option if you don't want to have to type in a nasty password every time you log into your computer. Another couple of really useful features in PC settings are refresh and reset. Now, let's take a moment not to get these confused. Talk about reset first. The reset option will wipe your computer. It will wipe all of the user accounts, it will wipe all of the files, and it will return that computer to its factory default state, i.e. how Windows was when it came out of the box. This is useful if you want to sell your computer or pass it on to a family member or some such. Refresh is an option that allows you to repair a malfunctioning copy of Windows from within Windows itself. When Windows 8 is installed, an image backup is kept of the operating system, and the refresh option will restore that as is, and you'll need to reinstall your software, and you'll need to install your apps again from the Windows Store, which I'll talk about in a minute. But anybody can use it, and anybody can get Windows working again. It doesn't lose your user accounts. It doesn't lose your files. It doesn't lose your main settings. It keeps all of that. You just have to put the programs back in. You can even create a custom refresh image that includes all of your programs and all of your apps. And details of how to do that, because it's a command line thing, details of how to do that are in the last chapter of Windows 8 out of the box as a top tip for you. So the Windows Store. The Windows Store is now the only place for which to get new Windows 8 apps. Some desktop software is also listed in there, but if you click on those, it will take you out in a web browser to the software author's website. But all apps are available here. There's hundreds of thousands of them already. Most of them, almost all of them actually, are free, and the store is searchable, and it's always kept up to date, and there's plenty there. But the store is now the only place to get apps for your Windows 8 device. So let's look at some of the top tips for actually using Windows 8 now. I want to talk about the on-screen keyboard, because there's different types of on-screen keyboard you can have. You'll see that there's a little blue highlighted button I've got here down in the right-hand corner, and you can choose when you touch that, you can choose to have a main keyboard, main style keyboard, as you see here. You can have a thumb keyboard, whereby the keys are pushed to the far left and the far right of the screen to make it easier to use the tablet with the thumbs. You can use handwriting recognition, and there's all sorts of options. Another big advance with the on-screen keyboard is, you'll see here elsewhere on the image, is that if you tap and hold for a second on any character, it will bring up all of the available international characters based on that letter. So if you need to write something in Spanish, for example, then all of the available letters with accents become available immediately to you. At the touch of a finger, you just slide your finger over to what you want, and it's selected. And it makes using international characters, and I know you're from all over the world today, makes using international characters much, much simpler than it does with a regular keyboard. So I mentioned a little while ago you can organize the start screen. Now, you can do this by dragging your tiles around. You can see here on the app bar, you can pin programs to the desktop taskbar. You can make tiles bigger and smaller. You can turn off the live tile aspect of some tiles. Let's say you don't want the email tile to tell you, to announce to anyone who might be looking over your shoulder that somebody sent you another email from generic Viagra. And so there's all sorts of controls there, but you can also drag tiles around and you can arrange them into groups. Now, by default, on Windows 8, you'll see there are several groups of tiles on the start screen. And where I've got this line here indicates that when you drag a tile between two groups, you'll see a grey bar appear. And if you drop that tile on that grey bar, it will create a new group. And if you want to move it away, you just drag it and move it, and the start screen is rearranged dynamically. So it's very, very easy and simple to arrange tiles on the start screen. Moreover, you can give names to groups of tiles. You do this by zooming out either with a pinch gesture or you holding down control on your keyboard and using the scroll wheel on your mouse. And you can then select a group of tiles either by, the way you select tiles is either by touching and dragging down ever so slightly or by right-clicking with the mouse. And you can select a group of tiles and you can give it a name. So you can call stuff work or college or internet favorites and so on. Then, when you're using apps, you can display two apps side by side on your screen. One will be docked into a panel on the left or right of the screen and will take about a quarter of the space, and the rest will take about the other three-quarters of the space. And there are two ways to do this. You can either, with the keyboard, press the Windows key and the back and forward arrows, which are just next to, between M and the question mark on the bottom row of your keyboard. Or with touch or with the mouse, you can grab an app in the top center of the screen and pull it away from the top center of the screen where you'll see it turn into a thumbnail, and then you can dock it left or right. And once they're docked, you'll see a separating bar between two apps, and you can move that bar left or right to change the focus from one to another. Once you've got one app docked, go back to the start screen. The next app you run will fill the remaining space. So, let's get on with actually using Windows 8 now. And I'm trying to leave as much time for questions as possible because I know there's probably going to be quite a lot. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is add an email account. So let's look at how you do this. Now this takes us back to opening the settings charm. And when you click on the settings charm or tap on the settings charm, you'll see, and there's an example here, in the top right corner of the settings bar that opens, you will see there is an add accounts option for email. So there's all sorts of additional settings that are for specific apps that will change depending on the app you're using. So in the Mail app, there's all sorts of additional ones, and one of them is to add new email accounts. So you would do it that way within the Mail app. And it doesn't matter whether you're using this Mail app or whether you download another email app or whatnot, or a calendar app. You'll always find the options in the same place, which makes it easy to use. Then we've got Internet Explorer 10. Now, when this opens, you will see the address bar will open for you the first time you use it, and you can see thumbnails here of pinned websites and favorite websites and recent websites. Now, I just want to explain the difference between them. If you pin a website, and I'll show you how to do these in a minute. If you pin a website, then that website will appear as a tile pinned to your start screen. And that can be very useful because it means that you haven't got to open Internet Explorer and then go to the website. You just click the tile for the website and you're taken straight there. If you save it as a favorite, it won't be saved to the start screen, but it will be saved as a favorite both in the new Windows Internet Explorer app, but also as a favorite for the full desktop version of Internet Explorer, which still exists and is useful if you need to use plugins or Java or other plugins and software like that. So you access these by opening the app bar within Internet Explorer. Whenever you tap in the address bar, you'll see these thumbnails will appear, and you can slide this left and right, and you can just tap on something to display that website. Other options available in the from the app bar in Internet Explorer is you can see at the top you've got thumbnail images for any tabs you've got open, and at the top right of the screen there's a little plus button for opening new tabs. So you've still got the full tab browsing, and then in the bottom right hand corner you have some additional options including refresh. You've got a pin option there which allows you to pin a website to the start screen or to save it as a favourite, and then you've got a little wrench icon, and you can use that to open that web page in the full desktop version of Internet Explorer should you want to. Also, just under the add a tab button, and this is very useful with the holidays coming up, you have another little button there with three little dots on it, and in that you can use in private browsing mode. And in private browsing mode is a way that prevents Internet Explorer from tracking anything you've done or anything you've been, and it's very useful for shopping for presents, especially if you're buying somebody a small computer book, around 120 pages, about Windows 8, as a Christmas present. So lastly, I want to talk about Windows 8 being secure by design. There are two features here that I want to highlight, one of which is Smart Screen, which has been significantly beefed up from previous versions of Windows. And what it will do is it will help make sure that you're not inadvertently going to dangerous and criminal websites or downloading files that are known to contain malware, and it will warn you and it will alert you. It doesn't always get it right, but there's always a more info option there that you can open and say, right, okay, we'll do this anyway. But it's a great feature. There's also Windows Defender. Now, Windows Defender is not Windows Defender, not the Windows Defender that you know. Windows Defender is actually a rebadged version of Microsoft Security Essentials, not to be confused with Windows Defender. Following? Good. It's a full antivirus product this time. It's full, it's free. If you still want to use a third-party antivirus product, you can turn it off. Just open Windows Defender, go to the settings and the administration options, and there's just a simple little checkbox there to turn it off. But Windows 8 comes with full antivirus software by default, and it's there. So you don't actually need to worry about it. And I use it. I've used it for years, and as long as you don't habitually go to dodgy websites, then you'll be absolutely fine with it. So antivirus is in Windows for the first time with Windows 8. So what have we got coming up? Over the next, 7 months here, we've got plenty of webcasts coming up. Always on the first Thursday of every month, as today is. So next month, configuring and optimizing Windows 8. Then in January, we get on to troubleshooting. Then February, for those of you who've got older software that you need to maintain compatibility with and you really have to have XP, I'll show you how to set up Windows XP in a virtual machine in Windows 8 Pro and in Windows 8 Enterprise. In March, I will look at how you can really be productive and really get the best out of productivity in Windows 8. Then we've got some more troubleshooting for the following 3 months, and please join us for those. But for now, I'm sure there's an awful lot of questions. I haven't looked at them yet. So we've got time for plenty of time for a Q&A. So, Yasmina, what have we got?
Oh, yes, Mike, we do have a lot of questions, as you mentioned. And first of all, thank you for a fascinating webcast. Really, really exciting information there about Windows 8. And boy, oh boy, folks, send in your questions now. We are at Q&A. If you haven't opened that group chat, please do open it. Send in your questions, type it in, send it in for Mike so he can answer it, and we'll just take them in the order they came in. We'll start with Ricardo. Ricardo would like to know, what cloud-based tools do we have in the new Windows 8?
Cloud-based tools, SkyDrive is built in by default. Google have now started to release apps for it, so we can expect apps for things like Google Drive to appear very, very soon. But SkyDrive is baked into Windows 8 so that you can see and access all of the files that are on your SkyDrive. So it's great for tablets and Ultrabooks. They haven't got to lug your files around with you, which also makes the device more secure because they're not stored on the device, and you can open them whenever you want.
Super. Another question here from Annie. Annie would like to know, if you buy a Windows 8 upgrade from Windows 7, will you be able to reinstall the OS from Windows 8 disk without needing a Windows 7 disk?
You will probably just be asked for the product key. I very much doubt. I don't think that you're asked for the disk. You don't need the disk, but you should keep a copy of your Windows 7 product key because it may ask you for that.
Great. A couple more questions regarding cloud-based. Let's see. Victor would like to know, for cloud-based image backups, SkyDrive, and then Ricardo, is there any cloud-based image backups? Again, would that be SkyDrive?
Cloud-based image backup? What, for creating a backup copy of Windows 8 itself? I wouldn't want to have a Windows image in the cloud because if you need to restore it, you probably wouldn't be able to access it. Because you'd restore from the installation DVD, for example, and then you've got no networking or no internet access at least.
Great. Question here from John. Can you talk a little bit more about how to access the Charms bar or app bar? Right.
The Charms with touch, the Charms and the app bar with touch, swipe your finger in from the far right of the screen from the bezel or from up from the very bottom of the screen. And you've got the Windows key plus C and plus Z to open the Charms and the app bar at any time with a keyboard.
Okay, a question from Earl. If I have Windows 7, can I Windows 8 in a virtual machine using Windows 8 upgrade?
You can run Windows 8 in a virtual machine, but bear in mind you'll still need a valid product code for it. You know, it's money to be spent. I mean, if you've got a TechNet subscription, for example, then fine, you'll probably have a product key that you can spare, but it can be a costly way of doing it.
Okay, another question from Ricardo. What about development tools? Will Windows 8 still use .NET framework, or how about JVM?
No idea on that, in fairness, but there is a free version of Visual Studio 2012, which I think supports a significant number of languages.
Great. Question now from Emily. She says, we use 3 monitors in our work group. I'm assuming we'll have the option to set a primary screen as we do in Windows 7 for determining the corners of the monitor?
Yes, you can. Now, let me remember, it can be a little fiddly, this. You'll set it in the way you normally would. So you would go to the desktop and you'd right-click and you'd select Personalize, and from there you can get into the display settings and you can choose which is your primary screen. Now, if you have multiple displays, the start screen will only ever display on one of them, and the desktop will display on all of the others. And the start screen will always display on the primary display, if that helps. This multiple monitor stuff I have included in the book in Windows 8 out of the box because I know it's something that people use quite a bit.
Great. And folks, with that note, we just did push out to you a code to get the book. Get Mike's book, Windows 8 out of the box. It's on special today. You'll save 50%. Use that link that we just sent you. Okay, another question here from Dilip. Main difference between Windows 8 and RT. And with that, I also want to tell you, Mike, a lot of people are asking, what does RT stand for?
It stands for runtime. It's nowhere near as exciting as you might think. The main differences are that you cannot install desktop software on a Windows RT device. Other than that, they are identical, bar for a few minor little things. There are some things that are missing from Windows RT, such as BitLocker. There are some things that Windows RT has, such as a feature called device encryption. The changes are very minor, and you'd have to look hard to find them. But Windows RT does come with... Microsoft have dropped the Office Starter software, the free versions of... Sorry about that, that's the dog. Microsoft have dropped the free Office Starter version of, from Windows 8. And, hang on, bear with me. It's always the way, isn't it? Okay, 1 second.
And we'd like to remind you all, Mike did mention that he is doing a first Thursday of the month webcast. So if you want to learn more about Windows 8, and he's going to be talking about a lot of good things coming up with Windows 8, his next event will be on December 6th, Configuring and Optimizing Windows 8. And we did push out the registration URL for that, as well as the URL where you can find all of Mike's upcoming webcasts. And as usual, they are all free, and as you can tell, full of good, useful information. Mike, are you back?
I'm back, and I told him I do not want to buy satellite television. So apologies for that. Yes, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. No, the differences between Windows 8 and Windows RT are minor.
Okay, we have another question from Annie. She'd like to know, in the future, will you be able to get apps from another source, like not the Windows Store?
Very unlikely, unless the only other way to do it is going to be from within a business environment using AppLocker.
Okay, and C. Chung would like to know, can you remove tablet option in Windows 8 if installed on a regular desktop?
No, but it's very easy just to work on the desktop and keep working on the desktop and almost never see the start screen. I do that all the time when I'm working. It's much easier than you might think.
Great. Another question from Annie. She says, as a developer, will I be able to distribute custom apps to clients and not the public?
That's an AppLocker feature as well, but yes, I believe there are ways to do that, but I don't have the answer to that personally, I'm afraid.
Okay, and Dilip would like to know if you can talk a little bit about the difference between live tiles and live apps.
Well, apps are apps. Apps are just the programs that run. Live tiles are icons on the desktop that are able to display information from within that app. So it might give you the latest news headlines from an RSS feed. It might tell you the sender and the subject of emails you've just received, or it might give you the latest weather information. That's what live tiles can do, and you can turn off the live aspect of tiles if you don't want that information displayed.
And now we have a question from, still lots of questions coming in. Folks, keep coming. We do have a few more minutes for Q&A. Let me get one for you here. Michael would like to know, can I still use Outlook for email?
Yeah, well, not on a Windows RT device, but you can still install Microsoft Office on Windows 8 Pro.
Great. Phil would like to know, how do I quit out of an app?
Right, I saw this one. This is an interesting one. When you open you remember I mentioned the running apps bar that pops out from the left side of the screen. Now, if you're using a keyboard and a mouse, you can mouse over the thumbnails of the apps, and you can right-click on one, and you can select Close, and it will close it. If you're not, then there's not really any direct way to do it, but in Windows 8 you don't really have to, because when you stop using an app, Windows suspends it, and it just hibernates it quietly in the background, so that it's just not using any real resources, and it's not slowing the computer down. After a period of time of being suspended, then Windows will just shut it down anyway. So it's very good at being able to handle these things on its own.
Okay, let's see. A few more questions here. Question from C.I. Morgan. If you have homegrown apps or apps from out-of-business firms on your Windows 7, can you import them to Windows 8, or does everything have to come from the App Store?
No, it's just, if you've still got your desktop, so everything that runs on Windows 7 will run on Windows 8. All of your desktop software will still run. The desktop is effectively exactly the same as it was with Windows 7, with the exception of the start menu being gone. So everything will still work. That's on a Windows 8 or a Windows 8 Pro or a Windows 8 Enterprise computer. On a Windows RT device, you cannot install desktop software because the processor is different and the software just simply isn't compatible.
Great. Now a question from Marcia. What are the different versions of Windows 8?
You've got Windows 8, which is the new basic everyman version. Windows 8 Pro is the business version that adds features such as BitLocker encryption, branch cache, and other business-specific features, domain joining and such. And then you've got Windows 8 Enterprise, which is volume license only. And then last of all, you've got Windows RT, which is the tablet embedded version of Windows 8 that you can't buy, that only come pre-installed on computers.
Okay, and we have a question now from Earl and another from C-Chung, kind of along the same lines. They're asking about writing for Windows 8 apps. What are the best languages? And if you know, are there any discounted development tools?
I know that I couldn't tell you about the best apps because I'm not a programmer, but there is a free version of Visual Studio 2012 that has been specifically set up for writing Windows 8 apps.
Great. And Marcia would like to know if there is a way to get the old interface back, like the Windows Classic options.
Yes, there are ways to do it. Stardock have got a bit of software called Start 8. There's VI Start is there. There's another bit of program, I think it's Classic Shell. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there are ways of doing it. Stardock's Start 8 solution currently seems to be the most polished and popular.
Perfect. And David would like to know, if you perform a Windows 8 reset, are the updates retained?
If you do a full reset, or even a refresh, actually, if you do a refresh and a reset, then the updates won't be retained. It'll have to download them again. If you create a custom refresh image, and again that's in the book how to do that, then the updates will be retained up to the point at which you created that image. This was inevitable that Windows 8's been out for a week and people are already talking about updates and service packs. It's hilarious.
Okay, a couple more questions here. Question from Karen. Is it easy to transfer files like music and pictures from my Windows 7 PC to a Windows 8 tablet?
If it's a standard, well, yes, you can do it directly. Just copy them over onto a USB pen drive is probably the easiest way to do it. It's very simple and straightforward.
Okay, and Patrick would like to know, assuming that all versions have backup functionality, will all versions now allow you to back up across a network?
Yes, you can. There's a new backup. I use the term in inverted commas feature called file history. I wouldn't use this as a backup tool because there's no guarantee that it will back up all of your files so that the file that you need to restore will be backed up, because what it does is it just keeps updates as files are changed and it only has a limited amount of space. The full backup software is still in there. In the control panel, it's called, ironically, Windows 7 File Recovery, because it's intended to help you recover your files that you previously backed up with Windows 7. But it's still there. It still works. The image backup is in there as well in the same place, and that still works as well.
Super. Dwayne is asking, can IE10 in WinRT run and load browser add-ons?
No. Where IE 10 from the start screen version of it does not support and will not support any add-ons. It's got Flash Player in it, not for every website, just for some websites. Nobody's quite figured out how this works yet, but it won't support add-ons. You need the full desktop version of Internet Explorer in Windows 8 or Windows 8 Pro to use add-ons.
Great. Now, our next question from Michael. Will my non-Metro existing apps work on Windows 8?
Yes. Yes, they will. Anything that runs in Windows 7 will run in Windows 8.
Okay, and a question from Gene. Can I hook up WinRT's email client to an Exchange 2003 server email address?
Yes, you can. It's very easy and simple to do, and the controls when you go to set up a new email account will talk you through the process, and they make it very, very simple and easy to do.
All right, and now we'll end with our last question from Annie. Does Windows 8 have a Mac-like time machine function that keeps previous versions of files on an external hard drive?
Yeah, this is called file history. You'll find it in the control panel. It's very easy and simple to set up, and it works in exactly the same way as Time Machine on a Mac.
Perfect. I'm not seeing any additional questions. Mike, would you like to leave our audience with anything additionally as we wrap up?
No, well, I always have an open mailbag, so you can email me at mike@mvps.org at any time. I've got Windows 8 tutorial videos up on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/thelongclimb, they're up there. Thelongclimb.com is my website as well. And there's plenty of help, so stay in touch. I'm on Facebook and Twitter as Halsey Mike. Follow me there, and I hope you have fun with Windows 8.
Perfect. Mike, thank you for presenting a great webcast for us all today, for sharing your knowledge and expertise. Folks,
and the
couple things to let you know. We did push out several things to you today in your group chat, so if you haven't opened it, please do. Good resources there for you. First, how you can get Mike's book at a discount today for attending the webcast. Also, we sent out a link so you can register for Mike's upcoming webcasts. They're the first Thursday of the month. They're all free. If you like what you saw today, please do register for all of those. Lots of good tips and knowledge there for you from those events. Also sent you a link for Mike's website and his email address so you can contact him directly with questions and comments. Again, Mike, well, thank you for the webcast. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we hope you benefited from the event today, and we hope to see you on the December 6th webcast with Mike. This will conclude today's webcast. Goodbye, everybody.